We are awakening together. This is our weekly gathering we hold online. For more information, visit our website, awakening-together.org. We'd love to see you there.
Good morning, everyone. It's good to see you. Hi. Welcome to the Awakening Together weekly gathering. Let's see, the name of today's gathering is True Perception, Just a Breath Away. And I was looking at the description because, I don't remember what I had told Don I was going to do the weekly gathering on until I sit down and I look. So I like to review. What the heck did I promise? And so I was reading the description. It says, sometimes it seems like the ego can hold you back from awakening to the beauty of unity consciousness, which is often called true perception. But that just isn't true. The ego is nothing. It has no real power. And then it says, join Reverend Regina Dawn Akers this Sunday as she looks at the simplicity of transcending ego and seeing with true perception. So it'll be fun to see how that happens, won't it? But tell you what, let's start by greeting one another. Don, if you would play our opening song, I'd appreciate it. Yeah, thank you very much, Don. And I see Jacqueline has a question to Manuela. What time is it where you are? I think it's around midnight. Is that right, Manuela? It's like smack dab in the middle of the night. And she's been coming to retreats lately, which start around midnight her time and go for the rest of the night. Yeah, it's just amazing. Her commitment is amazing. I mean, really, her commitment, not just to spiritual truth, because the truth is she doesn't need awakening together for that, or maybe she does. But I mean, her commitment to awakening together, to coming to these retreats that are the middle of the night for her, it's really amazing. So every week we select a statement of purpose from our purpose or from our core values that's related to the homily. And so today the statement that I picked is our true statement of purpose. We are an assembly of equals joined in common purpose, awakening to one true self, within an appearance of many faiths, many cultures, and many symbols. We seek to learn one and to rest in its embrace. And I don't think I felt this way in the beginning. I don't remember feeling this way. Maybe I kind of did and kind of didn't. But at some point along the way on the spiritual path, it became evident to me there can only be one truth, right? If you look at that word truth, there can be all kinds of ideas about what that one truth is, but there can really only be one truth, because if there were 4 or 5 options, none of them would be truths, right? There has to be some core that these 4 or 5 options come from. If there are 4 or 5, there has to be some core that is the beginning. We often call that the source. And that source, that core, would be the one truth. And that's really what we're here at Awakening Together is, in spite of the different paths we take, we're here to discern that one truth. What is the one thing that's true for everyone, everywhere, all times? So hopefully today, again, we'll step a little bit closer to knowing that truth. So let's do that. Let's shift into prayer. So first of all, I want to say that I really enjoyed that video. I enjoy fun and happiness and creativity and life. I'm reminded of the book, The Shack, where God was a Black woman who loved baking and loved rap music and loved all of her children and everything that they did. And that's the symbol of true perception, loving everything. When we begin this path, the idea of loving everything seems impossible. We see so many things out there not to love. And whether we say we believe in a devil or not, kind of seems like we do. We may call it the ego, but we think it has some power over us, power over others, power in the world. You know, we believe in good and bad. And so today we seek to move from that way of seeing to at least getting a glimpse, a taste, a sniff of true perception. Loving everything, loving everyone, loving just as it is. So my prayer today is for clarity and guidance, and I turn all of this over to that which knows exactly how to teach us the simplicity of true perception. Amen. So with that said, I am going to turn this over to, it's funny because this message I call an oldie but a goodie, because really this was written on February 13th, 2005. This was like one of my very first scribal messages. But the person who's going to read it, no offense, Nikki, is also an oldie but a goodie. Nikki was one of my very first mighty companions on this path. At one time, we were extremely close. Now we haven't actually spoken in years. So that's what I mean by an oldie but a goodie. So I bring back to you Reverend Nikki Dobson. Nikki, if you'd please read The Ego Is Not the Devil, I'd appreciate it.
There we go. I've been unmuted. Thank you. I am an oldie. I was trying to adjust the lights to make sure I could see it right. That's how oldie I am. The Ego Is Not the Devil, scribed by Regina Dawn Akers, and it is February 13th, 2005. The ego is not the devil. It isn't a force outside of you that finds pleasure in deceiving you. It isn't anything to struggle against or to fear, although it can feel as if it is. The ego is a mistake that you believe in. The power of belief is undeniable. What you believe is real for you. Since you believe in separateness and attack, the world seems threatening to you. That is what you believe. That is what you experience, and that is what you fear. The experience of a threatening world seems real to you, and I don't ask you to deny that seeming reality. I don't ask you to step in front of a moving car and trust that it will not hit you. But it may, because it may. It would be dependent on the alertness and the reaction of the driver behind the wheel. In this way, the world is real. What I ask you to understand is that your reality comes from the belief. The belief is the cause of all that you experience. You make the world you experience. Now you may ask, if I change my belief about the world, will I see no more sickness, no more war, and no more threat? I've answered this for you before in many ways, but I will put the answer together for you so you may see what seems to be pieces as a whole. You are not an individual. Everyone that you experience in the world is a part of you. You are an aspect of one mind. When I say that the world you experience is made by you, I am not referring to you as an individual. That would indicate that separateness is truth. When I say that the world you experience is made by you, I am referring to all aspects of the mind that believe in separateness. As one aspect of the mind lets go of the belief in separateness, more light is through. Oh, I'm starting to have a hard time seeing. Just 1 second. I'm sorry. There we go. Much better. As one aspect of the mind lets go of the belief in separateness, more light is brought into the whole mind. It helps to rouse the sonship. But as the sonship continues to sleep, nightmares of separateness continue in the world. When I indicate that what you will see will change the world, see, and the word perceive are synonymous. As long as you see a world, you perceive. I'm not saying that a violent crime could occur around you and that others would see it and you would not. The body's eyes will continue to show you the seeming actions within the world of illusion. When I say you will see differently, I mean that you will perceive differently, or to be even more clear, that you will feel differently about what you see. Your perspective will be different. Your feelings will be different, and therefore your actions will be different. Remember the story of Jesus and the adulteress. Jesus saw the man that were preparing to stone this woman, and he saw a woman who had seemingly broken the laws of Moses. His eyes did not show him anything different, but Jesus did feel differently about what he saw. He saw the woman as innocent, and he saw the men as innocent. So he did not condemn the woman, and he did not condemn the man. He acted in a way that was consistent with his perception and caused a change in events. Peace Pilgrim also has many stories that demonstrate that their eyes showed seemingly dangerous situations, but her perception showed only a call for love. Because she consistently reacted with love, it caused a turn of events based on the introduction of light into the situation. On what seems to be a micro level, an introduction of light into a seemingly dark situation can change the events as they were about to occur. This may appear to be a miracle of events, but it's not. It is light within, an aspect of the mind shining away darkness within the same mind, resulting in a change in form. The cause is in the mind. The result seems evidenced in form. The same miracle can occur on what seems to be a macro level. This may look different in the world of form. It may seem that it takes involvement from more individuals in order to introduce lasting peace into the international situation. But if you remember that there are no individuals, you will see that if the same cause and effect. I've told you before that your only responsibility is to accept the atonement for yourself. Now you must see how important it is that you let the light come into awareness in your mind. You must also see how you do this on behalf of all of your brothers. Light within the mind is light within the mind, and the entire mind benefits from the shining of that light. There can be no exceptions. I see that you are willing to do this for your brothers. I see that you are willing to let your perspective be changed from that of a seeming individual to oneness, but you are finding it difficult. You are experiencing fear and you do not know what to believe. You aren't certain what truth is and what is illusion. Even as you sit here writing this with me, you wonder if you are making this up or if you are hearing the voice for God and don't know how to be sure. I will tell you how to be sure. I've told you this before. Pay attention to how you feel. Let the feelings of light guide you. Do what you are told to do while feeling those feelings. When the feelings of darkness are upon you, take no action. Spend that time giving the feelings over to me. If you act with the light and refrain from acting with the darkness, you will be acting in accordance with the truth and the light, and you will be moving steadily along the path to enlightenment. Know also that the end of this path is certain and enlightenment is a reasonable goal, since it is the only goal that can truly be obtained. However, don't crave the goal so much that it becomes an individual desire. That will delay the result, since the cause of enlightenment can never be the desire to attain for the individual. The ego is nothing but a belief in your mind. When the belief is gone, you will see that the ego was nothing. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Nikki. And since my description said, join Reverend Regina Dawn Akers this Sunday as she looks at the simplicity of transcending the ego and seeing with true perception, why don't we go there first? All right, let's just go there first because it's in this message. It's the second to last paragraph, which I know you guys don't have it, but well, you know what? Give me half a second and I will pull it up for you and you will have it. We'll look at it together. I'll share my screen because I think sometimes the mind learns better if it both sees and hears, right? So let me see, zoom, let's zoom this up to 150. There we go. Now let me come back and share my screen, and we will look at the simplicity right off the bat. All right, here we go. It's this paragraph right here. The question before was really showing my doubt. Remember, this is, I received my calling to write with Spirit in November 2004. And remember, I started the spiritual path in April of 2004. So I'm really a newbie here. And so this is only February of 2005, just 4 months after the calling came. So there's still a lot of doubt in my mind. There's a lot of fear in my mind. At this point, I was beginning to be guided to leave my job and move. And I mean, a lot of terror. That was my actual experience at this time, was terror. And so it talks about how you aren't certain what is truth and what's illusion. Like there's got to be this question in my mind, am I screwing up my whole life here? By being willing to leave my job and move. And I don't even know if at this time I knew where I was moving yet. It was really, really in the beginning. You aren't certain what is truth and what is illusion. Even as you sit writing this with me, you wonder if you are making this up or if you are hearing the voice for God and you don't know how to be sure. So this was my state of mind. My state of mind was willing but terrified. All right, so let's just put that in place first. This was my state of mind on February 13th. It'd be fun to look back and see if that was a Friday. Wouldn't it be funny if it was Friday the 13th and we're talking about the devil, but I don't know if it was or not. But it was the 13th. So we can play with that if we like. But I was terrified, willing but terrified. So how do I know whether I'm listening to the voice for God or whether I'm making this up in my mind, whether I'm becoming more deluded and I'm about to screw up a really good life? Because I had, as far as the world is concerned, a really good life. Here's the answer. I will tell you how to be sure. And this is the simplicity of how to transcend the ego and move into true perception. So please, everybody take note. This is the answer. I've told you this before. Pay attention to how you feel. Let the feelings of light guide you. Do what you are told to do while you feel those feelings. When the feelings of darkness are upon you, take no action. Spend that time giving the feelings over to me. If you act with the light, and refrain from acting with the darkness. There's the simplicity. If you want to write something down, write this sentence down. If you act with the light and refrain from acting with the darkness, you will be acting in accordance with truth and light, and you will be moving steadily along the path to enlightenment. I know you guys are writing that down, so I will just pause for a moment. I'll read it again. If you act with the light and refrain from acting with the darkness, you will be acting in accordance with truth and light, and you will be moving steadily along the path to enlightenment. That's the answer. And I'm going to stop sharing, but I will hopefully post this in the chat. I just copied it. Again, if you act with the light and refrain from acting with the darkness, you will be acting in accordance with truth and light, and you will be moving steadily along the path to enlightenment. And then I'll put that in the chat, hopefully. Yes, there you go. So those of you who need more time, you can see it in the chat now. So, the ego is not the devil is the name of this message. And again, a lot of people here might say, I don't believe in the devil. And, I'm sure you don't. But you still look out in the world and see good and bad. And that's really the same belief that we're talking about. right? Whether you quote believe in a devil or not, you probably believe in bad, might even believe in evil. And maybe intellectually you don't. But how do you know if you really don't? Is by how you feel when you see these things that your mind judges as bad, right? If you get upset, and this last week, some of you had a real opportunity to see if you get upset at things. If you get upset, then you still believe in good and bad. And for now, we'll just say that you still believe in the devil, even though we're using that as a symbol here. This says the ego is not the devil. It isn't a force outside of you that finds pleasure in deceiving you. It isn't anything to struggle against or to fear, although it can feel as if it is. The next thing it says is the ego is a mistake that you believe in, right? That's what it is. It's a mistake that you believe in. And a few paragraphs down, it tells us what that mistake is. It's the mistake of believing that you are an individual. All right, so let's get real clear on that. We call this the belief in separateness. We call this the I thought. But believe it or not, this is what causes us to see good and bad. The belief that I am an individual. That's the mistake. So this is telling us how to move from that belief. As we move from the belief that I am an individual, the belief in good and bad naturally begins to fade. What happens, and we can't explain this, right? If there's an intellectual mind that's sitting there waiting for this to be explained, prepare to be disappointed. What happens as you move away from the belief that you're an individual, you also move away from the belief in good and bad naturally. And what happens is your way of seeing naturally softens. It naturally becomes more gentle. You do begin to see with the light instead of the darkness, and the darkness has the duality in it. The darkness has the good and bad in it. The light has only, remember in the Bible, it said in Genesis that God created the world, and then he looked at it and saw that it was good. That way of seeing is naturally in the light. As you raise up to God's way of seeing, you look at the world and you see that it is good, even with everything that's going on. I transitioned to this way of seeing a little over a year ago. I mean, sometimes I know exactly when a transition happened and sometimes I don't, but I transitioned to this way of seeing while on a vacation in Yellowstone National Park. I can't tell you exactly what day. There was something about that being there, and everything there, of course, was good, including the wolves and the bears, and it was snowing and raining and cloudy and not what you would consider the ideal vacation, but somehow it was all good, I didn't notice that I wasn't being disappointed in the weather, disappointed that it was too cold to stand outside as long as I, quote, would have wanted to. I just was enjoying the vacation. It was all good. But then when I got back, that all good stayed. And as I got back here to everyday life where there were still some subtle judgments, I could see that they were no longer there. I could see that all good, it's all good, had become my perception. And I'm going to try and explain that to you as well as I can. How the individual has good and bad in it. And then how when you transcend the individual, how there's only good. One question, I don't know if Sharon is here, but one question that Sharon has asked me over and over and over and over again over the years is, but do you actually have a choice? Like, do you actually have a choice about anything? And I know some non-dual teachers teach that you do not have a choice. And yet A Course in Miracles teaches that you do have a choice. And so it can be very, very confusing. What's true? Do I have a choice? When you are in the belief in individual, when you are still in that belief, even if you intellectually know different, you can still be in the belief, even if you intellectually have studied enough things that you know differently. So if you are intellectually in the belief, you are in the experience of duality. All right, being in the belief in individual and being in the experience anonymous. Within the experience of duality, what happens in your mind is different options show up, because duality is never necessarily going to have differences. And within those different options, you have a choice. It's all within the realm of duality, right? You could say that all those choices come to you from the fact that you believe you're an individual, and ultimately then they are no choice, but you have choice. And the primary choice that you have within the belief of individual is to continue to believe that you are an individual, to continue to believe that you are within a world of duality, or to start selecting the options that are provided that are calling you up to a higher vibration out of that. So within the belief in individual, there is duality, and duality has all of its own choices. Should I take this job? Should I not take this job? Should I marry this guy? Should I not marry this guy, right? But those could all be wrong-minded options, right? So in a way, there's no option. Doesn't matter what road you pick, you're still staying within the belief of individual. But also within the belief in individual, there's a more pure duality. You know, A Course in Miracles says that the Holy Spirit uses everything that the ego created. The Holy Spirit uses everything that the ego created. Well, if the ego created duality, the appearance of choice, the Holy Spirit can use that duality, that appearance of choice. And that's what the right mind and the wrong mind are. They're the Holy Spirit's use of that duality. You can listen to the wrong mind, or you can listen to the right mind. To the degree that you listen to the wrong mind, you stay in the belief in individual, because that's really what the wrong mind is. You stay in duality, because that's what the individual is, duality. To the degree that you listen to the right mind, you begin to rise out of that perception. That's the simplicity of it. And so what this paragraph that I shared with you is saying, and what specifically the sentence is saying, is if you act with the light and refrain from acting with the darkness, in other words, if you listen to the right mind and everything it says, and you completely stop listening to the wrong mind, right? Just stop. If you act with the light and refrain from acting with the darkness, you will be acting in accordance with truth and light, and you will be moving steadily, or we could even say rising steadily, along the path to enlightenment. This is the simplicity. This is the simplicity. And you know, somewhere in NTI Mark, which of course many of you know is a story, somewhere within that story, Jesus is talking to the apostles, and he's telling them that whenever you're in fear, drop to your knees and commune with our Lord. He says something like that. Drop to your knees and commune with our Lord. When you feel peace, get up and walk in whatever direction the peace is telling you to walk in. Now, again, this gets complicated for some people within their minds, but this message is giving the simplicity of it. This message says, I've told you this before, pay attention to how you feel. There's the simplicity of it. And the reason that's simplistic is because thinking is very confusing. Thinking is very deceitful, just like the image of that devil. Right? Just, you know, we all know that the story is that the devil tries to deceive us. Well, thinking is very deceiving. The reason thinking is very deceiving isn't because there's a devil there trying to deceive us. It's because all thinking is within the belief in the individual. So like, let's say you have a decision about whether to leave your spouse or not, right? This is a decision you think you have facing you. And your mind is telling you all the benefits that you get from this spouse that you will lose if you leave this spouse, but also all the things that are wrong with this spouse that could be better if you left this spouse. And it looks like you have a choice, and it looks like one choice is better than the other choice. That's deceiving, because all of that is still within the belief in individual. In other words, it doesn't matter what you pick, you haven't gone anywhere. That's why it's deceiving. You see? It's not that there's a devil trying to deceive you to make the wrong choice. That's where, you know, people get confused. the wrong choice is any choice that you make, right? So that's the deception. The right mind offers something completely different. The right mind offers an answer, and I can't tell you what the answer would be in that situation, because whatever the answer would be different based on each individual, right? So I can't tell you what that is, but the right mind offers a different option, which is completely different than what the thinking mind is offering. And by listening to that, you raise in vibration. So let's say that you are a person who thinks you have a choice about whether to leave your spouse or not. You don't, that's what you think. You think you have a choice about whether to leave your spouse or not. And all of this thinking is going on. And then one day, whatever your biggest trigger is, your spouse does that. Whoa, now you're really angry, right? Really angry. And that's it. That's it. I'm making my decision. I'm leaving, right? This message says refrain from acting when the feelings of darkness are upon you. In other words, when your spouse does that, whatever that is, the big, black, dark, worst thing in the world, that's when you don't want to do anything. You don't want to do anything. Right? And this is where a lot of people make their mistake, is when the feelings get strong, they go with whatever the ego is saying will move them into feeling better. And this says do nothing when those dark feelings are strong. Do nothing. Pay attention to how you feel. That's the simplicity. The thinking is deceiving. Don't pay attention to the thinking. That's all going to keep you within the realm of believing you're an individual. Pay attention to how you feel. All you have to ask, and you guys know the answer to this in a heartbeat. All you have to ask, is this a feeling of darkness or a feeling of light? Or if you want to ask it differently, is this a feeling that comes from the wrong mind or a feeling that comes from the right mind? Or does this feel like the world or does this feel like God? However you want to ask that question. You guys know that in a heartbeat. That's why this is simple. You don't have to take a single solitary class to know the answer to that. And then it's a very simple process flow chart. If you know process flow charts, they have if-then statements in it. So the question is, this is the same as have you come to me from the heart, Jacqueline, which we actually taught in last week's retreat, which Jacqueline wasn't at, but there she is. She recently got it through Gentle Healing, I think. So all you do is ask, is this the feeling of darkness? Is this the feeling of light? That's the question. Then if it's the feeling of darkness, you do nothing. That's how simple it is. It's not, do I leave, do I stay? You do nothing. So I guess if you happen to be there, you're going to stay there for right now. Because you're not doing anything. You're not making any change, right? But it's not a permanent decision. It's a right now. Why these feelings of darkness are upon me, I do nothing. And it says, spend that time giving the feelings over to me. So this is when you're going to be journaling, meditating, contemplating. You're going to go deep into your spiritual practice. That's all you're going to do. Right? Rest, accept, and trust. Whatever spiritual practice feels right in the moment. You're not making any decisions about the world. You're going deep into your spiritual practice. If, when I check within, what is this feeling? And it's the feeling of light. And feeling of light could lead you to leave your spouse. I mean, there's this feeling of just, this is done now. Like it doesn't have the darkness in it. It's just a clean light. This is done now. It's time for me to go. So if the feeling of light is saying that, then you pack up your bags, you kiss your spouse goodbye, and you leave, right? But it's not the thinking that you're listening to. You're paying attention to your body, where the guidance is coming in through feeling. The feeling is, it's just time to go, right? Or the feeling is, stay. The feeling is stay. This is not time to go, right? This relationship is still important, right? So if it's a feeling of light that's providing the guidance, then you do whatever it says. It's a feeling of darkness, you don't see that as guidance and you do nothing. Do you see how simple this is? And you can practice this. You don't have to wait for the big things like, should I leave my spouse or not leave my spouse? Should leave this job, not leave my job. You can practice this in social media, and you can practice this in email, because at least my experience was people would write to me in social media or email and say something which hit up against something in me that created that feeling of darkness, right? And there was a wanting to defend or being angry at them. Sometimes people unfriend each other, right? Well, this says when the feelings of darkness are upon you, do nothing. That means you're not going to post a comment. You're not going to respond to this email. You're going to do nothing. You're going to go to your spiritual practice. Right now, in fact, I would say that in this world where so much of our communication isn't even, we don't even talk on the phone anymore. There's text, there's email, there's social media. That is giving you the maximum opportunity to pause. Do you see that? Maximum opportunity to pause. In fact, God has never given us a better time to decide not to do anything, not to say that. Even if you type it, you could type it before you hit enter or before you hit send, go, whoa, 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 that's the wrong mind, and delete it, right? You got maximum opportunity to do nothing. That's all that's being asked here. When the feelings of darkness are upon you, do nothing. Just go to your spiritual practice. But if the feelings of light are upon you, if you can feel that this is light, this is light, this is clean, right? Light to me actually feels empty. So I should talk about that, because some people might think light feels like bliss or maximum love, or I hear the booming voice of God. I always just call it clean. It has no baggage attached, right? It's empty. It's simple, right? It's just has air around it, has space around it. It's just empty. It's time to go with the sense of that's it. Right? There's nothing attached to it, nothing around it, right? So that's what the feeling of light is. It's actually quite empty, quite open, quite spacious, quite quiet, right? So if that's the feeling, then what this says is do that. Do that. That's where you are to go. That's what you are to do. And what's interesting, of course, is, again, this was written on February 13th. And many of you know my story very well. You know the whole moving to North Carolina thing, the whole Laurent thing, the whole, challenges I've had with Jasmine, with other spiritual teachers, with, everything. And this is what I did. When the feeling of darkness was upon me, I did nothing. I journaled. I told some of you guys last week that I said, in the beginning, I used to journal twice a day. And then I said, wait a minute, I think I just lied to you. And what I really meant was, that's not true. I didn't purposefully lie. And so if you go and look at my old journals, there are going to be days when you're going to find 6 a.m., 10:12, 12:30, 2:14. I wasn't journaling twice a day. I was journaling multiple times a day. Why? Because there were a lot of feelings of darkness upon me. Right? That's where I was residing, in fear and grievance and judgment and blame and unworthiness. And, there was a whole lot of feelings of darkness upon me. And again, this is one of the first messages I ever received. I had this guidance from the beginning. It's super clear. It's super easy to understand. And I followed it from the beginning. You see how easy that is? That's all I did. I just followed the simplicity. If I had listened to the feelings of darkness, you realize I never would have quit my job at PHCS. You realize I never would have moved to North Carolina. You realize I never would have written NTI. Writing NTI, sometimes I think some people think of that as, I don't know, this really great, holy thing that happened. I don't know. But I'll tell you what it felt like to me when the guidance came. It felt like an unspeakable thought. Unspeakable because it was so, I don't know if sin's the right word. The word I want, I can't find. But it's when you're doing the opposite of what you should do. I mean, the Bible is the holy book. This is how I was raised, right? The Bible is the holy book. The one thing you don't mess with in this life is the Bible. Do you understand? That's with my frame of mind when I was asked to read the Bible and let it be interpreted. Right? So if I had been listening to Feelings of Darkness, I never would have written NTI. I never would have joined with Laurent. I never would have moved to Pueblo. I never would have started Awakening Together. I never would have started the retreat house even, although by then the feelings of darkness were much lighter, so it was much easier to transcend them. But every time guidance came to move me forward, there was fear there too. So knowing that you do not listen to the darkness, you only listen to the light, is the rule that I followed. And of course, you can imagine there were lots of emails, there were lots of Facebook posts, that were, quote, attacking my decisions along the way. I mean, those of you who know the story, there were hundreds. And I didn't respond to any of them, right? Because the response would have come from the darkness. Do you see how easy this is? And do you realize if you're not doing this yet, you can start doing this today? You can just make a decision today. I'm going to pay attention to how I feel. If the feelings of darkness are upon me, if I'm pissed off, if I'm blaming someone, if I'm afraid, if I'm jealous, if I'm annoyed, if I'm frustrated, if I'm, go on and on and on, feeling guilty, seeing guilt, well, I'm going to do nothing except go to my spiritual practice. And when the feelings of a light are upon me, I'll do whatever it says. I'm not going to weigh in my mind, do I want to do that or not do that? Because if I weigh in my mind, do I want to do that or not do that? I go right back into the belief of individual, and guess where the choice is going to get made, right? If the feeling is a light upon me, I'm just going to do it. End of story. If you live by this simplicity, you will, as this says, be moving steadily along the path to enlightenment. In other words, you'll be rising up to true perception. And it's in true perception where you see that all is good. So there is no devil, which means there is no bad. If you see bad, you're simply misperceiving. There is no devil, which means there is no bad. Not in you, not in others, not in the world. There is no bad. If you see bad, you are simply misperceiving. In order to get to where you genuinely see that there is no bad, that there's only good, right? What you want to do is refrain from acting with the feelings of darkness and always act with the feelings of light. And that will lead you steadily along the path of enlightenment. And then you will see there is only good. And the interesting thing is, back to the question Sharon Slider always asked me, do you have choice? Is there such a thing as choice? When you wake up from the sense of individual, when you get to the only good, apparent choice does disappear. Because that choice only existed within the belief in individual. So the real answer to that is, as long as you believe you're an individual, there are choices. The only real choice is between right mind and wrong mind. Those choices in wrong mind are not choices at all. They're all just going to keep you in the wrong mind. No matter what you do, you're going nowhere, right? You're chasing your tail. But there is choice within the belief of individual. The choice to go with the wrong mind and stay in the belief of individual, or the choice to go with the right mind and begin to transcend it. Within the belief of individual, there's a right use of duality. That is the choice between the wrong mind and the right mind. But when you transcend the individual, there is no choice. You'll see that. You'll witness this body moving and doing things automatically. But that happens after transcending, not before. So hopefully we've all reached clarity. And now I'm going to ask Dawn, oh, wait, I see a question here. Let me see this question. It was sent to me privately. Is there really just all good? I'm hearing there is no bad, there is good, there simply is. Yeah, it's all good. Good, you may have, the definition of good may slightly change, like nothing can be wrong, nothing can be out of whack, nothing can happen that isn't supposed to happen. That kind of good. Not, it's all going the way this mind should have thought it would have gone. That's not good, right? That's not what good means. Yeah, it's all good. It's all perfect. It's all happening perfectly, is really what good means. So even the definition of good will change, but it changes naturally, right? As you follow these simple instructions. So I'm going to ask Don in a second to play a song, which to me is a song that kind of represents true perception. I think many of you know the song. It's by Peter Mayer. It's Everything is Holy Now, right? That's a wonderful song. Remember that if you would like to donate to Awakening Together, of course you can do it anytime, but this is the imaginary passing of the plate. So if you want to go and donate during the song, you can do it now too. Don, if you would play the song for us, that would be wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Don. And so now we have just a few minutes before our closing song. Is there anyone that would like to share about today's homily? Because we'd love to hear from you. Okay, George.
Beautiful homily, Regina. Really, Don had posted a question. Do feelings of sadness in the heart count as listening to darkness?
It can. I mean, sadness is one of the interesting feelings I found. There's what I call natural and unnatural sadness, but they have a different feel. Unnatural sadness has a quality of what I would call desperation in it. Something's got to be fixed. Something's got to be changed. It's not supposed to be this way, something like that. Where natural sadness has love, compassion, gratitude. Like I experienced natural sadness when my dog Jamie died, right? So there's a slightly different quality to it. So if you, instead of just look at the sadness, look a little deeper into the sadness, the quality, you'll be able to tell whether it's natural or unnatural, which would be the darkness. Thanks for bringing that forward. Any other comments? We probably have time for one more, as long as it's only a couple of minutes long. And we'd love to hear from you. All right. I don't see anything showing up. So Nikki, I just want to say it's great seeing you. Again, Nikki and I were once extremely close. Yeah, go ahead, Nikki. You want to say something? I see you leaning forward.
Thank you so much. This was beautiful. I'm so grateful to be here. I'd love to hear, because it's that connection that happens. Because what I seem to hear quite a bit is this idea that I'm not supposed to do blah, 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 right? But when I'm coming from, the way that I word it is like one has a story and one is just a movement, yes. Right? One is just a movement that happens. And if there's a story, I know where I'm coming from, yeah. Right? Yeah. And naturally know where I'm coming from, and I can sit back. And the other one is just a movement. Yeah. Now, condemnation can come in afterwards and have something to say, right? Like that's not coming from the light, and that's still just condemnation. It's still that idea that things should be different than what it is. But movement just happens, and I'm grateful for being on this path with you, Regina, because even today, just seeing your face in my heart moves me in a different direction. And it's just that connection that we all have, no matter what, right? Like no matter who that person was or is, that connects us to that. And I'm grateful for that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I love you. And of course, one thing that we got from Nikki was David Hempel. Some of you guys may know David. David came to us through our Nikki connection. So, And he writes articles still that people read and stuff.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So I think now it's probably time for our last closing song. This song is called Living in the Moment. It's a great song. It kind of represents true perception, but the truth is living in the moment is how you tune into those feelings too. So it also represents healing, right? Only by living in the moment are you going to know if you're listening to the feelings of darkness or the feelings of light. So living in the moment is staying here is important. Oh, yeah, and Jacqueline says David is facilitating the upcoming Sufi course, David Hempel. So let me turn this over to Dawn so she can play our closing song. Thank you, Dawn. All right, so thank you, everyone. It was really wonderful spending this time with you. And as you know, I now have to go to breakfast. So I'll see you later this evening. All right, bye.
You've been watching our online gathering. It happens weekly on Sundays at 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time. To join us live in the sanctuary, visit our website, awakening-together.org. You'll want to click on Online Sanctuary in the main menu, and then in the drop-down menu, look for How to Enter the Sanctuary. Right there at the top of the page is a clickable link. We'd love to see you in the sanctuary and join with you in fellowship. Thank you again for watching. Also, please know that if you'd like to stay connected via the Awakening Together channel here on YouTube, you can subscribe and hit the bell for more notifications. We hope to see you in the sanctuary.